Welcome back to Autism at Home, brought to you by us here at Early Autism Project Malaysia through our non-profit initiative, the Hope Project. My name is Joshebet Isaacs, and it's so nice to see you again. Now, you may be joining us for the first time, or you may already be familiar with our content. Either way, thank you for joining us today. Now, this is the first lesson in our newest series, and it's going to be all about play, as you can see. Now, I can imagine some of you thinking, why an entire lesson series on play? Why not jump straight to the important stuff like reading, writing, toilet training? Well, play is actually an incredibly important part of a child's cognitive, physical, social, and emotional development. Play helps children develop skills that will help them face the bigger challenges of life as they get older. In other words, play is learning. For example, playing with Legos helps children develop their fine motor skills, or what we call the little muscles in their fingers. This in turn is one step towards helping them be able to one day hold a pencil and write confidently. Play also builds the big muscles too, usually, through games and sports, making us faster, stronger, and better coordinated. All important for healthy physical development. Children also learn social skills through play. When playing with other children, they learn how to share, negotiate, resolve conflicts, and cope when things don't go their way. Skills that are still going to be important as adults, be it in adult relationships or that big work meeting. Play is also a wonderful way to build relationships with others, particularly parents and caregivers, and if done right, can have enduring relationships that last a lifetime. The sheer variety of play also allows our children to be exposed to music and potential future hobbies, giving them an early way to explore interests they could pursue further in the future. And perhaps above all, play is fun. It creates a lot of simple joys and cherished childhood memories, setting a child up for healthy adult development from the start. Now, when it comes to children on the autism spectrum particularly, learning how to play is important for three main reasons. Learning play activities so they can play with other children, developing appropriate ways to replace self-stimulatory behaviors, and also occupying their time independently to give parents some space or a bit of a break. The reality for children with autism is that many do not know how to play, at least not in the typical play we expect play to look like. Instead, a child with autism's version of play may involve lining up toys in exactly the same pattern again and again, rolling a car back and forth and staring at the wheels repeatedly, or perhaps tipping all the toys out of a box. Now, why is typical play so difficult for children with autism? For one, children with autism may struggle with engagement. This is sometimes called joint attention, which is being able to focus on the same thing as someone else. If we're unable to focus on the same thing together, it can be very hard to imitate or copy someone else teaching us something. Imagine trying to teach a child where the triangle goes in a shape sorter, but they're not even looking or paying attention to copy us. Secondly, some children with autism find imaginative play difficult. Think pretend tea parties, treasure hunt, police and robbers. All these games require the ability to pretend that something is something else. For example, that plastic tea party food is real food. While not all play is imaginary play, being able to play imaginatively indicates a child who can use their language to create stories, plan, and problem solve. Third is difficulty in social communication skills. It can be hard to play along with someone if we can't read their intentions and emotions clearly, follow along when the rules change, or come to a compromise when we need to. So, can children with autism learn to play successfully? The answer in many cases is yes. The bigger question, though, is how? Now let's go back to the building blocks of learning and take a look at the foundational core skills, particularly attention and imitation. Now, many children with autism initially struggle in this area. They may not be interested in a toy or activity. They may have fleeting attention or even obsessive interest in only very specific things. So this takes us down to building motivation, which in turn will impact cooperation. In other words, the child's willingness to cooperate with us to learn new types of play. Therefore, when teaching play, ensure these 4 foundational skills: motivation, cooperation, which in turn strengthens imitation and attention. These 4 have to be all strong and always in the back of your mind. Play, just like learning to talk, read, or brush teeth, is a skill and can be taught as long as it is broken down, reinforced, and has sufficient practice. Before we get started on teaching a child with autism how to play, it's important to understand what the typical developmental milestones of play are. These are the stages of play a typical child will go through as they grow older. For example, how they play as babies versus when they're 4 or 5 years old. Knowing about the developmental milestones of play allows us to firstly identify what stage our child is at and what stage we want to try and get them to as much as we can. So there are roughly 6 stages of play: unoccupied play, solitary play, onlooker play, parallel play, associative play, and cooperative play. A typical child would usually have gone through all 6 stages of these plays by the time they are 4 years old and above. Now let's get a better idea of what these stages look like. From 0 to 3 months, a child is engaging in unoccupied play. Really because, well, they're still a baby. At this stage of life, they're simply moving their arms and legs around, starting to learn about how their body moves, which is going to set the stage for playing in the future and with others. For much of the first 2 years of their life, a child will largely be doing solitary play, meaning they're happy to play on their own and are not yet so interested in playing with other children. This stage is still very important though, as this is where a child learns to occupy themselves. Around the point of 2 years old, they start to become onlookers in play. Now, they haven't begun playing with other children yet, but are slowly starting to watch other children play. It is past the point of 2 years where a child might start to play alongside or near others, known as parallel play. While there may not be a lot of social contact at this point, children in parallel play start to learn some simple social skills, like taking turns or copying each other. It's once a child reaches 3 years old when we start to see associative play. This is when we might see them doing similar activities together, like using different equipment on the playground or building a city of blocks together. You might start to see them talk more to each other, like asking, "What should we build now?" or working together to make the city even bigger. This is when they learn how to use the language they've been working on the past 3 years to really get messages across to each other. Finally, around the age of 4 is when children truly start to play together. At this point, games and activities become more complex and rule-based. Children aren't just building blocks. They might be creating entire puzzles together, playing a board game, or playing outdoor sports like football. This is known as cooperative play. Now let's see if we can identify the stages of play through some case studies.
Pop quiz. Alice enjoys playing with her dolls and pretending to feed and take care of them. Her mother recently enrolled her in a daycare. Although Alice does not mind playing alongside other children, she has not yet begun to play with them. How old do you think Alice is? 2 months old, 1 year old, 2 years old, or 3 years old? It is most likely that Alice is 2 years old. It's great to hear she knows how to play by herself. It's important for a child to be able to play with themselves first before they get to parallel play like Alice. Kumar's parents bring him along for a play date with their neighbor, Layla. The adults overhear the children playing in the next room. Layla says, "Okay, so I'll be the mommy and you be the baby." Then Kumar says, "I don't want to be the baby." And Layla replies, "Fine, then you can be the daddy." What stage of play do you think Kumar and Layla are in? Onlooker, parallel, associative, or cooperative play? By the sound of it, the children are playing an imaginary game and are busy learning how to negotiate the roles of the game. It is likely they have reached the level of cooperative play.
So there you have it again, the 6 stages of play: unoccupied, solitary, onlooker, parallel, associative, and cooperative play. Now keep in mind these are just guidelines. As with any developmental milestone, it is so common for some children to move a little faster or slower on their milestones. For example, children who are more shy might take longer to join a group of children. On the other hand, children who grow up around siblings or other children may get into group play much faster. So always consult with your doctor or pediatrician to check if your child is meeting their milestones. Even better, monitor your child's developmental milestones yourself. You can use an app like the CDC's Milestone Tracker app to help you check if your child is on track. Now, those were developmental stages for typical children. For children with autism, specifically, it is possible for some to get a little stuck at certain stages and maybe not progress as quickly as other kids their age. For example, a child with autism who is 5 years old and should be playing with other kids by now may only be at solitary play. On top of that, children with autism may need an adult's direct support to teach them how to play appropriately and get from one stage to the next. That's actually what the rest of this series is going to be all about. There are many different categories of play out there, such as interactive play, toy play, sensory or messy play, independent play, imaginative play, games, and even sports. For the rest of these lessons, using many real-life examples, we will teach you what these play are, why they're important, when to start teaching these plays, and how they fit into the goal of helping bump our kids along to the next stage of play. Now keep in mind that as usual, autism is a spectrum, and some children with autism will be able to go through all 6 stages of play, while some who are more affected may only reach a certain stage due to the additional social and communication demands that make later stages just too complex for them. This does not mean we should not continue to try to expand and progress our children's play skills along. So now it's your turn. First, observe your child and how they play. Try to identify which stage of play they are at, regardless of how old they are. Remember, it is possible to have a much older child who is still only at a parallel or solitary play stage. In the next lesson, we'll introduce you to the first type of play, a type of play you can do with children from the moment they're born, interactive play. In the meantime, do check out our free online resource platform, Autism at Home, which has all the corresponding articles and downloadables for you. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram and Facebook to stay updated. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.